Hallo und herzlich willkommen, ihr Lieben, zu einem neuen Modellbau König Special. Und zwar präsentiere ich euch heute von David Parker Figurenbemalung mit Acrylfarben. Der David Parker war ja im letzten Jahr bei unserem Sommerfest. Kommen wir jetzt erst dazu. Wir haben ja jede Menge Arbeit für euch. Das werden wir leider nicht auf Deutsch übersetzen können. Die Arbeit schenken wir uns. Das ist es ist rudimentäres Englisch. Die Übersetzungsfunktion habt ihr auch. Aber ich würde sagen, ich lade euch einfach ein, dass ihr mir dann folgt und einfach mal einen Blick darauf werft, was der David da für uns so zaubert.
Okay. Right, I shall speak up a bit. What I'm going to try and do is demonstrate what I hope is quite simple, progressive technique for face painting, so that something that you can use as a sort of foundation for consistent results every time. So I've tried to make it as simple as I can. It's the basis of what I do every time, and what we're going to do really is work on the two-tone system, where I'm going to put a base colour on, and then we're going to go 2 tones darker and 2 tones lighter, and that gives you pretty much everything you're going to need at 35th scale in terms of definition and shading. Now, because we're working with a tiny little head, and I'm not sure how much you're going to see, what I've also done is put a sequential series of faces on the front of the desk here, and we're going to work through. So this shows here the build-up of the colours as we go along from start to finish, and I'll try and refer to them as I go. And if at any stage I'm not making sense, or you want me to clarify something, then please just let me know. So, a couple of basic things to start with. First is, if you're going to be painting heads, it's always a good idea to get a good head to start with. And the best guys are Hornet. They're so well sculpted, it makes a big difference when you're painting, to have something good to work on. If you're going to start with some poorly defined plastic figure from some obscure 1970s kit, you're going to struggle to get anything good out of it. So it's worth making a little bit of an investment into something that's good to start with. It's half the battle. The other good thing, the other essential thing, is some good brushes. You really need a good brush, because we're talking really tiny details here. So Winsor Newton Series 7, it's expensive, yes, sort of 5, 6, 7 euros a brush, but they last for ages and you get really good results with them. So those are my 2 sort of top tips before we start. I'm going to be working mostly with acrylics, and this is what I use all the time. It's a box set from Life Colour, 6 paints, and I think the benefit of it, especially if you're starting out, is you've got consistent base colours to work from, and then we're going to use them to mix other shades as we go, but it means you've got something that you can come back to time and time again. So to start with, I've put a base primer on here, and I've used the base, their flesh base, with a little bit of their first light tone. I've just mixed them roughly 50-50 just to give me that base colour. And what I'm going to do now is apply the first level of tone, which is this image here. So we're just going to go around and start to fill in the darker areas, and this is the same for all faces that I'm doing. So we want to think about areas like under the chin, that's always darker. The lower edges of the side of the chin, where we'll be painting in and around the eye sockets. We'll be painting under the nose, any sort of lines that come down off the nose here and around the hairline. So for
You
this,
thin it with normal water.
just with water, just tap water, it's fine. And for this first tone, you don't want a big jump in tone from the bass to the first one. It wants to be sort of reasonably subtle. So I'm just going to see what this looks like. So I'm going to start off by just defining the edge of the hairline. A little bit inside the ears. I'm going to go round the jawline. Under the chin. Around the eye sockets. Also quite nice just to do each side of the bridge of the nose as well.
Can you hold it a bit higher?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that better?
Excellent. Excellent.
I'm going to do under the nose. Obviously got these nice, on this particular pose we've got these big creases because he's smiling, so we're going to pick them out. That little crease line there. I'm also going to just put a bit of shading into the side of the jaw. Under the bottom lip, just define that a little bit. And also the flat area on the side of the temple, you can use a little bit of colour there as well. And that's stage one. Is that showing up on? Is that showing up on screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see it's not a big difference, not a big jump, not an immediate kind of wow effect. It's quite subtle, but it's the first stage in the process. Next stage is to go a tone darker, and basically we're going to be covering almost the same areas, but in subtly different ways. So just to bring out that emphasis. So I'm going to go a bit darker than I was before. So again, back to the hairline, going to touch that in. Inside the ear. The jawline again, but not as sort of wide a stroke this time. under the chin, under the bottom lip, but not going right the way round, just sort of concentrating on the central bit. Under the nose. The laughter lines. The eye sockets again. And the top of the bridge of the nose. And just a little bit under the lower eyelid. And the actual mouth line as well. So it's starting to sort of come together a little bit now. We've got that roughed in. The next stage is to go and just add the absolute deepest shadows. And this sometimes depends on the type of face you're painting, the pose. You know, if it's a very animated face, then there'd be more sort of harsh, strong shadows in certain areas than a more neutral, relaxed expression. So, and this one's quite animated, so I'm going to just take a little bit more darker tone. Up under the brow. Under the nose again. The mouth line. And the top of that laughter line as well. Just and maybe just the darkest area of the ear as well. A little bit under the chin. And these bits on the hairline where the hair's quite kind of defined, just there. How's that looking?
Good.
Okay, so we're kind of halfway through already. Which brings me to the next bit, which is the kind of make or break bit, which is putting the eyes in. And most of the time, figures of this scale, it's well, my golden rule really is I never paint whites of the eyes in this scale, because you just immediately get the starry-eyed, crazy look. So I just leave them flesh colour, and at normal sort of distance it works really, really well. So the only thing I'm going to really add is just a hint of the pupil, and I'm also going to add I'm going to define the top eyelid just by painting as thin a line as I can. And the other trick with eyes is you don't want to paint a dot. You don't want to circle because again you're going to get the starry-eyed look. Most people normal, unless they're startled, you're gonna see almost like a semicircle because the top half of the iris is covered with the eyelid. So we're almost painting a circle with the top chopped off. And even more extreme most of the time, you sometimes some of these figures are sculpted so that they're just more of a sort of squinting expression. So really you're just getting a little line rather than a defined eye as such. So in a way it's great because it makes our job a lot easier in terms of painting because we're just almost hinting at it rather than trying to put whites and bits of pink in the corner and reflections. And so what I'm going to use is a bit of oil paint for this. Two reasons for this. One, it's got a real intensity. This is like a burnt umber colour. It's a really dark brown. So it's going to give us a nice depth to define the eyes. If it all goes horribly wrong, which it could well do, it means with a bit of white spirits we can clean it off and have another go, which is also great. So I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller brush, just because this is a bit tricky.
What size is this?
It's a 000, I think. No, 00. So is that, but apparently different. So I'm not diluting the paint too much because I don't want it as a wash. I don't want it running around the place. I want it quite neat and controlled. I'm getting the fear now. So first I'm going to paint like a horizontal line across the eye.
There it happens.
Yeah. Clean that back a bit. I'm not sure how well that's showing up, but so that's kind of what I've done at this stage here. That's just the line going across. Now I'm just going to, because he's laughing, his eyes are quite sort of closed up. But I'm just going to hint at a pupil by putting a little kind of dot of colour towards the middle of that line. need to clean that in there. It's not my finest work, but I think it gives you an impression of what we're trying to do there anyway. At the same time, well, I've got a little bit of this dark colour. You know, we can use that to enhance any other little bits we want to pull out, like just that tiniest bit under the bottom lip. And the darkest area under the nose as well. And just any little bits of sort of shading under that upper eyelid, upper eyebrow. Okay. Oh, and the actual line of the mouth as well. That's worth just defining. So that's as dark as we're going to go with the shadows and the darker tones. So now I'm going to switch across and we're going to move up the palette to the lighter tones. And this time we're almost kind of doing the opposite of what we've just done. So I'm going to be looking to highlight certain bits, so things like the bridge of the nose, tops of the forehead, tops of the ears. Those kind of things are what we're going to pull out now with a lighter colour. So bridge of the nose, just down the middle. And then the top of the eyebrows. Forehead up to the hairline. Tops of the cheeks, which are quite pronounced because of his expression. The tops of the nostrils on each side of the nose. The upper edge of the chin. Top lip, above the top lip, just under the nose. You can also, this figure's actually got little creases at the sides of the eyes, so I'm just going to touch those in a little bit. And then I'm going to go up another tone, but this is be very, very minimally applied because you don't want to, if you go too much with it, it just makes it look quite artificial, so I'm just keeping it quite, I'm mixing it half and half with the previous colour. It's probably a bit strong still. Just picking out the highlights of the forehead. And that's pretty much it for the flesh tones. The only thing really I want to do now is just add some colour into the lips. So I'm going to use a little bit of red. I'm going to go back to my original base colours. Add a bit of red to it. You don't want too much, otherwise it looks like lipstick, so it's better to be cautious. And when I'm painting the lips, I only tend to paint just the bottom lip. Don't bother trying to do the top one, it just looks mad. Probably needs a little bit more. And that's pretty much it in terms of just a very basic roughed in. I'm going to pass it around so you can have a closer look. Obviously I've done that probably a bit quicker than I would normally, so it's a little bit rushed, but I think it gives you an idea of lighter, you can add a bit more and a bit more to it. The actual, the rest of the mouth, I'd maybe go with like quite a dark shadow colour, and you can also enhance it with a little wash of the oil colour if you feel it needs it. But it's all about that balance, because if one part of the face is suddenly extremely contrasty with the rest, it will look odd.
So, ich hoffe, ihr habt das so sehr genossen wie ich und da einen Eindruck gewinnen können, wie der David wirklich seine wunderbaren, tollen Gesichter dahin bekommt. Wenn ihr Fragen habt, ihr wisst ja, unten drunter einfach schreiben und wir werden das nach bestmöglichem Wissen und Gewissen für euch beantworten. Ansonsten bedanke ich mich für eure Aufmerksamkeit, wünsche euch noch was und wir sehen und hören uns beim nächsten Video.